You're listening to the Holistic Lifestyle Guide podcast, the show that guides you on your holistic lifestyle journey to a healthy body, mind, and soul aligned with nature. Hello, and welcome to episode number 42 of the Holistic Lifestyle Guide podcast. In this episode, we're going to be talking about positive content. So in this case, I'm going to be specifically talking about podcasts and YouTube videos, although this can also include things like books and magazines and websites and things like that. But for the reason why I'm going to talk about it, just the videos and podcasts, is because these are things that you can do while you are doing other things, so you can listen while you're doing other things, and so they're so much easier to implement into your life. So, let's talk about positive content in general. The information that you absorb, either by reading or listening, affects your health immensely. Everything you read or hear will either negatively or positively have an impact on your body, mind, and soul. So, by moderating the input you're letting into your five senses, you can improve your physical, mental, and emotional health, and your spiritual health as well. So I'm going to focus on the power of positive content, the stuff you read and listen to. So I mentioned podcasts and YouTube videos that I'm going to mostly focus on, but also you can also read videos. Sometimes people have videos that you need to actually look at. So this is basically just a general overview of these things. So these can include books, websites, magazines, newspapers, podcasts, even social media posts, even images and videos. So let's get right into it. If you consume a lot of negative content, you may find yourself anxious frequently. You will worry about unknown situations and fret over your health, your relationships, your finances, and other things. You may become irritable and think negative thoughts constantly. Even scarier, you might not even notice these things. It might just become so normal that you think this is okay. But it is not okay. But the good news is that you can flip the script. You can do this by consuming positive content throughout your day. When you focus on the positive, you'll experience less anxiety. You'll find it easier to face setbacks and other difficult life circumstances. You will stop thinking about the worst and begin imagining positive outcomes. You'll be less prone to worry about your health and your relationships. So, let's talk about podcasts quickly. Podcasts are a great way to include more positive content into your life because there are an abundance of uplifting and encouraging podcasts out there to choose from. The thing that I like about podcasts is depending on where you listen, you probably won't have to deal with ads like you do with YouTube. However, I know Spotify has ads, but YouTube or iTunes doesn't. And so it's kind of a little better quality way to listen to things. Unless you don't mind ads, you can go on YouTube. So another thing that I like about podcasts is they generally tend to be regular. When you're following a YouTube channel, it might be a couple weeks, a couple months, even sometimes years before they put out more videos. But with podcasts, they tend to be pretty regular. So, what are some of the benefits of listening to podcasts and YouTube videos? You can experience more peace. Of course, this is going to depend on which ones you listen to and watch, but negative content creates a lot of noise in your head. It kind of gives you things to worry about and new problems to fear. It reminds you of everything that's going wrong around the globe. Positive content, on the other hand, gives you hope, leaves you feeling like the world is not a horrible place. It encourages and builds you up. You can learn new things to help improve your life. The result is that you finish positive content feeling refreshed, peaceful, and armed with new knowledge to transform your life. You can discover new ways to grow. So positive content can challenge you to become a better person. It can give you inspiration and insight for pursuing self-development projects. For example, if you want to break the habit of emotional eating, then a podcast on the topic of mindfulness can be a great source of encouragement. You'll get regular tips and advice on how to tune into your body and your emotions. Another benefit of listening to positive content is you can become a creative problem solver. When you're listening to uplifting podcasts and videos that feature a guest or a host who has overcome a personal struggle, it's not just encouraging, but it also allows you to see new solutions to your own problems. When you learn about what difficult situations other people have had to overcome, you can be inspired. You'll look at your own challenges in a different light, helping you to become more of a creative problem solver. So absorbing positive content is one of the best things you can do for yourself. Not only can it spur on your personal development, but you'll also find positive content can bring more joy into your everyday life. So you might be wondering, how are you ever going to find time to listen to all these podcasts and videos if they're coming out on a regular basis? You almost have to, keep up with them. And trust me, I struggle with this. My YouTube playlist, watch later playlist, is it would probably take me a week to actually finish them all, but I don't actually get to the end ever because I'm always adding more every day. So here are some tips for you that I have found to help you to listen to this stuff without being overwhelmed. Because I know that you have a lot of responsibilities, you have a lot of projects going on, you have a lot of tasks on your plate. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to add this positive content into your life. And that's the beauty of audio, especially if podcasts are usually audio, and videos, some videos you have to read and look at, but some of them you can just listen to. So hopefully you can absorb the information while doing other things that don't require your mindful attention. So you can listen while you go about your daily routine. Most people have morning routines that keep their hands busy, but not necessarily their minds. For example, your morning may consist of a beauty routine that involves makeup, hair care, and other activities. And instead of just letting this time slip by, you can play an episode of a podcast or a video. I utilize my time in the bathroom by bringing my laptop in there. Sometimes, you can bring your phone in there, probably, because I'm really not a phone person, so I do everything on my laptop. So bring that in with you to the bathroom to utilize that time that you're not really thinking. You can also listen at the gym, so you can try swapping out music for a podcast, although it's probably easier to work out to music, but some people might want to listen to podcasts too. So pick one that matches your workout speed. If you prefer a slower, longer workout, then a podcast that is soothing might be a good match. If you prefer intense workouts, choose a show that you'll find inspiring and leaves you feeling motivated. Listen while relaxing. So if you have a hobby that helps you relax, maybe you like to knit or sew or do adult coloring books, it's easier to absorb a message when your hands are busy. So these are perfect times to tune into these podcasts. This is one of the things that I like to do. I like to, this is a guilty pleasure here, but I'm a Candy Crush addict. But I limit my time. I don't spend hours a day. I save it for the end of the day when I listen to my videos. So I'll hit my playlist and get my, because Candy Crush is one of those things where your hands are busy, your eyes are busy, but your brain isn't really. It kind of is, because you're looking, if anybody plays Candy Crush, you know how it is. You're always looking for the best move. But that doesn't mean that you're thinking. Your brain is working, but it's still a mindless kind of brain work. So you can listen. So that's my favorite time to listen to stuff. Of course, I listen to things all day long, and all the other tips that I'm giving in this podcast episode are other ways that I do it too. And another way, which is the next one, is listen while doing chores. Play a podcast while you do your chores. It's a simple way to make boring chores go quickly and use that time to focus on your personal development. You can listen while you're doing dishes. This is one of my favorite ways to listen to podcasts, because when I'm doing dishes, I got my hands, I have those, I wear gloves when I do dishes, and so I want whatever I'm playing to last at least as long as my dishes are going to take. So I prefer not to listen to YouTube videos, because then in the middle of my dishes, an ad will pop on, and then I'm like, ugh, do I take my gloves off and go over to the computer and skip the ad and put the gloves back on? So I usually use my dishes time to listen to podcasts, because they, like I said, don't usually have ads. So another chore that you might want to listen to these is when you're mowing the lawn, mopping the floors. Although, mowing the lawn might be a little loud, so maybe you might not be able to hear it as well. So just, doing folding laundry is another one of my favorite times when I like to listen to stuff. So you can also listen in the car. This is another way to enjoy your favorite podcasts while you are commuting. It doesn't matter if you drive to work or take the subway or a bus. You can use your travel time to fill your mind with a positive podcast. So also, if you have a long drive to visit family and friends, like me, I don't live in the same city as my family and friends. So when I go visit them, that's a good hour out of my day. So I like to listen to stuff then. I do love music, but when I'm behind on podcasts, I can get a few of them knocked out in one day just by listening to them while I'm driving long distances. Another time that you can listen to these things is before sleep. So this is probably going to be the more mellower ones. There's a lot of things you can listen to. Actually, not just podcasts or videos, but there's a lot of good apps that play meditative talks. Insight Timer is one of those. Check out Insight Timer. I love listening to that before bed. I listen to that while I'm getting ready for bed too. There's a lot of really relaxing people, a lot of meditative, actual meditations, guided meditations and stuff on there. So that's another thing you can check out. So applying this information into your life, listening to podcasts regularly is a great way to begin your journey of self-development. But if all you do is listen and you don't do anything with the content, you're not likely to experience any significant change. That's because you have to take action if you want to become the best version of yourself. I talk about this a lot with the information that I share. And it's the reason why I started creating things like planners and journals and things like that, because just listening to the information alone, sure, it's entertaining and educational, but if you put it into action, it actually becomes transformational. So here are a few things that you can do to apply this information into your life that you're getting from these podcasts and videos. And the first one is to take notes. Sometimes a host or a guest on a podcast will make a statement that resonates with you. When that happens, don't try to keep listening. Pause the episode if you can, if your hands aren't in the sink doing dishes, and ponder what was shared. Ask yourself, why is this resonating with me? What does this statement make me want to do? Take as many notes as you need to. I actually have a whole notebook just for notes, so I can write down all of the gold nuggets of information and I can actually remember them. And then another thing to do is to take action. When you're listening to a podcast, consider how you can implement what you're learning. For example, the host of a relationship podcast says that the most important ingredient for a successful marriage is regular communication. So, make it a note to stop and check in with your spouse today. Go beyond the usual "how was work" to ask a thought-provoking question or thank your partner for all the things that they have done for you. So keep in mind that depending on the episode and what you're doing, you may have a lot of notes or you may only have a few. Don't worry if that's the case. You're just looking to capture the best gems from a show. The key is to write everything down that you want to remember and add these action steps into your planner and journal about what you've learned. Make it real and really solidify the information into your head and into your life. If you're looking for a planner or a journal where you can write these things down, I've got loads of them in my Etsy shop. So I'll leave a link in the show notes for that. So the next thing I'm going to go into is some recommendations of some positive content that I can't get enough of, that I watch on YouTube and listen to on podcasts. I actually have a YouTube channel where and then I also have a bunch of videos. It's a series that I started and I didn't quite do a whole lot of them. I think there's 2 or 3 so far. But I cover my favorite YouTube channels that cover mind, body, and spirit information. So they're a lot like my channel and my podcast and all the things that I do. So I will leave a link down below to my YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link to my playlist of my favorite YouTube channels. But keep in mind, I actually filmed those maybe like a year ago now, so I'm really behind on them. I've got a lot of videos I have to put out, but I'm going to be making more. So when it comes to podcast recommendations, podcasts have not been around as long, so I don't have as many to share as I do YouTube channels. Like I said, oh my gosh, I'm following like 200 YouTube channels. I really love those so much. So let's get into these podcasts that I have to share with you. The first one, the biggest one, the main one that I love is Highest Self Podcast by Sahara Rose. She is one of my favorites in all manner of learning. She's actually got the #1 spirituality podcast in the world. At least she did at the time that I researched this. And she also is into Ayurveda. Like, I learned most of what I know of Ayurveda from her. So check that out if you're interested in that. Another good one is Expanded Podcast. That's a great podcast about manifestation. Another good podcast is called Hearts Rise Up Podcast. That one is about self-discovery, expanded awareness, self-mastery, and things like that. Another one is Trading Raw Stories Podcast, and that is a holistic health coach. There's another one called the Holistic Nutritionist Podcast. That one gives practical tips on holistic health care. There's another one called Holistic Health Masterclass. There's one called Tiny Leaps, Big Changes. That will give you simple strategies that you can implement into your life regarding wellness and personal growth. There's another podcast called The Mindful Kind. That is a top-rated mindfulness podcast. I will leave links to all of these in the show notes so you can check those out, as well as some other ones that I'm probably going to add to that, because off the top of my head, I really can't think of all of the rest of them. I'm adding new ones all the time, and that's how it should be. You know, you shouldn't stick to the same ones all the time. You should always listen to new ones. And, you know, you're going to lose interest in some of the old ones once in a while, and that's why it's good to have a variety. Same goes with YouTube, you know. I have found myself just falling down a rabbit hole of where I get obsessed with a certain YouTube channel, and I go through all of their old videos, even back to a couple years ago, and I'll just add them all to my list to watch later. Before I know it, I've got like 30 or 40 videos in my queue, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And that's just for one channel. And then I go to the next one. And then, you know, for YouTube, you can click the bell icon, and that way those will pop up in your notifications, and so you're never going to miss them. But what I do is I go to the section, it's called My Subscriptions, you know, and then when you are on that section, you'll see all of the newest videos from the ones that you are subscribed to. So depending on how many channels you're subscribed to, there will be a ton of them if you have a lot of them like me. So every day or every couple days I go through and I catch up and I add them to my list. So I've got just, at some point I think I had like 100 videos that I was behind on. But like I said, if you listen to these things while you're doing other things, you can knock out a few of them in an hour. A lot of the YouTube videos are maybe 5 to 10 minutes long. Podcast episodes tend to be longer. They tend to be between a half an hour and an hour long. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. If you don't like ads, if you like longer, then I would go with podcasts. Although, it's a good combination to do both. And that's why I like to talk about both in this episode, because like I said, podcasts have their pros and cons, and YouTube videos have their pros and cons. So I think at this point I've said everything I needed to say about podcasts and episodes on YouTube and all that. Basically, I wanted to just drive home the fact that positive content is so easy to find, and you don't have to submit yourself to the news. Yes, you should keep up with the main stories, but I would never sit and watch the news. I quit watching the news probably 20 years ago. I don't read the newspaper anymore. I get my news in other ways, but I don't even watch TV anymore. I just use YouTube and podcasts for my, I don't even want to call it entertainment, because I'm not using it to entertain myself. I'm using it to educate myself. And that is the beauty of positive content. So thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to help support the podcast, please share it on social media or consider donating. And if you want to keep up with everything I am doing, you can find all the links at holisticlifestyleguide.com. And again, I will share my YouTube channel and my YouTube channel link down below in the show notes. Thank you again, and have a great week.